It's 1 o'clock, 1 p.m, and I'm just past Osbington Mills and what I call the Smuggler's Cove, which I did a couple of paintings last year. I didn't know there was a wreck. It seems to be, I think, maybe quite an old wreck, although it's partly steel, on the beach further past. And so I did a quick drawing of that, which probably will be in the description, unless I do something else. I'll post it on the Instagram. But it's just too hot. There are not many occasions where it's just been too hot for drawing. I went out during the first heat wave, and it was 36 degrees, and it was just, even though I was sitting in the shade, which I'm not here, which is part of the problem. It's just too hot to draw. Just because you're just trying to draw and you're just going, you're feeling like you're burning. But yeah, this drawing is a new medium which I've just got just before I left. I did some portrait work in it. Oh no, I was going to do some portrait work, but the portrait thing was closed. So I've done some experimental abstracts with it, but this is really the first time I've used it in anger. And it's Lyra, the large chunky graphite crayons that Lyra does, which I've been using a bit for the life drawing. I think Robin has them. What I didn't know is there's water-soluble ones, which are very similar in some senses to the woody pencils, but are a bit different in others, and not because they seem to be more graphite-based. But they do the same sort of thing, that they're kind of, unlike the graphite, they're pretty much locked in when you've applied the water, and they're very sort of, so they're not the same thing where you can rub them out afterwards and do stuff like that. But I got some normal ones as well, and so I did a sort of a quick thing, because yes, I know it seems to be becoming a theme, all these quick works, which is annoying, but I need to go and sit down in the shade. It just happens to be these are the not hottest days of the year, but I don't know what it is now. It must be top 20s. And even with a bit of a breeze, and even though I doused myself with water, I've been dousing myself with water, because I'm wearing my sort of recycled polyester. I can't remember the name of the company. Was it 10 not 10 City, 10 Wave, 10 Tree, that was it, 10 Tree. And it's a really nice sort of cotton recycled polyester shirt. And I know polyester, evil, but for walking and for camping, it is the coolest and the lightest and easy to wash and the quick drying and that sort of stuff. So I've been basically using that by dousing this with water at a campsite, and then also at the Smuggler's Inn. And it's just so cooling to get the as that dries, it just, the wind, it just is really nice and cooling, although it's horrible when you first put it on. I learned that yesterday when I did a cold shower and I stepped in it with my shirt on. It's partly to wash it, and then I was like, oh no, this is really nice. So that helps, but seriously, yeah, this is too hot this middle of the day to do this shirt. Oh dear. So, but I'm going to keep walking on. I've decided to walk on to as far as I can. I won't get to something like connect to Durdle Door, because I think that's like, well, I thought it was 10 miles from Lulworth to Weymouth. I might have been wrong when I first did it a long time ago. But it is 6 or 8 miles, something like that. I think it might be further. So I probably won't, but I'm going to go as far as I can. Certainly to the headland you saw in the first painting I did, from the campsite. It's not too far away, so I'm going to go and see that headland. That was one of the ones I wanted to go and see. Forget the name of it. I will probably title it or mention in a future podcast what the name of that headland is, but it is a good... I've painted it a few times, and I really do like it, so it would be nice to see it from on top of it. So yes, speak to you soon. Smuggler's Path to White Nothe, or is it Nothe? Undercliff. Steep hazardous route. Yeah, I wouldn't be taking that one. I'm currently on the place I drew in my first drawing. I'm actually standing on it at the moment, and hopefully not getting too much wind. And it's there's I assume another one of the Century pillboxes, though in brick, a double-decker one. I've seen a few of those on the route. So I've walked from Eweleaze through Osmington Mills, otherwise known as where Smuggler's Inn was, or is. I had a drink there. Through Ringstead and up here, and it's, I don't know, maybe it's I would say 3 or 4 miles, but it feels like much more because of this heat. But it's sort of, we get your breeze now and it's much cooler. And I'm left with a dilemma because it's nearly 5 o'clock. I've got 2 options. I either keep walking to Lulworth Cove and get the bus there, which is 3.5 miles, or I walk a bit over 2 miles inland and get the bus, the same bus, I think, or actually no, another bus, there about the same sort of time. And I don't know which one to do. It's always a dilemma with these trips that, you know, you get to a certain point and you're like a break point and you're like, well, I can either go inland and it's miles inland for the road for the bus, or I can keep going. And I'm actually thinking if it's only 3.5 miles, although I know it's Durdle Door, I have walked to up the other side of that and the down side of it, because I stayed at the campsite. I do know that bit can be quite uppy downy, but it would be nice to do it. And although I did it before the other direction years ago, and sort of get it done and see you know, kind of like go through and see if I want to come back here, and, you know, walk from the road and continue, or, you know, where I would like to do some more work. I have done 2 pieces today. The Shipwreck one I mentioned, and there's another one at St Catherine's, which is near Ringstead, the St Catherine's Church. It's very much a sailor's church. It's sort of reminds me of a sailor's church. It's a wooden black sort of lapboard bill. We don't have many of those churches. Almost like a temporary church. Look inside. But they have an amazing view from the cemetery, which is of the White Nothe. Nothe? I assume it's Nothe, like nose, but it might be White Nothe. But I think it's probably Nothe. It's spelled Nothe, and that's, I've drawn it a few times. I did know the name of it, and I've forgotten it. And yeah, that I did a paint stick piece of that, and it turns out heat exhaustion and all that walking isn't really good for my artwork. I was just so tired. I was actually falling asleep while doing it. So that's why I've got this dilemma of whether to walk back on the easy track or whether I go further to Lulworth. Yeah, because like 2 miles versus 3.5 is not a massive difference. It was about 2.5 probably now from here. So it's 2 miles from where I was. And I've walked a mile to Nossie, so it's probably about the same really. And I don't know. I mean, there is stuff at Lulworth. There is, you know, I know I could get a taxi there if I have to. I'd rather not. But there are buses from there. Or there's the main road, which I've never gone that way, but it's shorter. That's why I'm thinking of going for the road, you know, or the path, you know. Though I've not been along there a long time, but I did it in 7 hours, as I mentioned before. It's only 10 miles, and I was right. It was only about 10 miles. Lulworth to Weymouth. What Google doesn't know is about the up and down. And I think that section has quite a lot of up and down. So, yes, I'm not sure. Yes, I'll let you know which one I choose. If I suddenly post the podcast, anyway. Well, it's near 10 to 8 on a Saturday in the morning, and yeah, that was a very bad decision I made right at the end of that last piece. Well, I got a very good watercolour, or a reasonable watercolour. The work up to press I've been doing I haven't really been happy with. The first drawing, okay, and this new watercolour, which will be the episode art, is more what I want to do, or it was more, I was like, yes, this is it. The problem is I did it on the way to Lulworth, and it took longer than I expected. So then I suddenly had to rush to try and get to Lulworth, and I've forgotten how bad those hills are between White Nothe, or no, how did the woman say it was last night? White Nothe. I think it is White Nothe. I didn't know how to pronounce it. And the piece is called Uppy Downy, because I call those bits Uppy Downy. There's only about 4 of them, but they're so exhausting. And I did one of them, and I sort of went down one of them, going up the other one, and I was like, I can't make this, I can't do this. My legs went to jelly, which I've never done before. And I was like, oh no. And so I had to kind of retrace my steps back, which meant I missed the bus. And then so I walked to Ringstead Beach, thinking, oh well, I don't know if the kiosk is open, probably not, but there'll be people around there. I can find a taxi. Of course, I get to Ringstead, the signal is very spotty, sort of not just internet signal, but just general signal. I got through to one person who said, oh no, I'm on the Wareham, and of course it's Friday night, and then got cut off before I could ask him, do you know anywhere else? And then that's one person, they had no fucking clue. They were like, oh, I'm not from here. It was like, oh great. And you hovered, and like going, well. I asked someone else, happened to be a local, a woman, and they were really good, and they gave me a number, and then I couldn't get through, and they gave me a lift, even though they were from Winfrith area. They gave me a lift the other direction to Eweleaze, and if it wasn't for them, the whole night would have been a lot more stressful than it was, because I assumed rather dumbly that I could just call a taxi not too far from Weymouth. Yes, so I don't usually do that, by the way. I try and avoid that, but I just got to the point where usually I would just walk home and just go, well, it's going to be painful, but no, because of that jelly leg thing, I was like, no, I just can't walk any further. I'm just, no, I can't do that. I can't walk the 3-4 miles across the coast, which is not that strenuous as all the other stuff, and it's quite, compared to that bit and the bit around Moot, and yeah, and it's kind of throwing a spanner in the works, because I'm heading towards Golden Cap and Lyme Regis, and it might be just because I didn't build up to it, because the last time I did all this cliff walking was October, and then August was the first lot. I probably tried to exert myself too early on, but it is a bit like, oh, if I can't do that bit, because that bit was beautiful, the bit that, and I was like, I really want to draw or paint this bit, but I might try the Lulworth direction, see if that's a bit less extreme. But even so, because I know the steps at the Durdle Door are quite easy, even though there's a lot of them and it's a bit tiring, but it's not too bad because they're these big steps. But the bit after Durdle Door, I didn't walk that way much when I was there last year, so I think probably it was pretty hardcore. So yeah, so today is a easy day, low. Unfortunately, I can't do no walking, but sort of low walking day. And the piece I did was Uppy Downy is on Artistico paper, so it was smaller, and I used the Swan fountain pen, one of the Swan fountain pens, the 1930s. I've got it's one of the few pens I have that's actually properly refurbished rather than refurbished by me, and it's a sort of a dark red burgundy colour, and and then watercolour on that. Done quite quickly, but I like the looseness of it. It's not horrible. Whereas the stuff I've been doing, first piece was quite good. Then the two pieces I did after that, which I mentioned in the previous sections, were okay, but not what more sort of in between pieces. Oh, the paint stick piece was terrible, and I'm not going to post a picture of that. I might do it on Instagram, but yeah. So today you might see some social media posts and me sitting around. I haven't had my coffee yet. I'm actually sitting away from the tent in the breeze because, unfortunately my tent can't cope with the breeze, but I was working at 7:30 by the sun clock boiling the tent, even though there's lovely breeze, and it's actually quite cold on the breeze, but I have to have the tent slightly out of the breeze, otherwise it just flaps all night and I can't get to sleep. And we've got ants. We had an ant invasion last night, which again, after all the other stuff that's happened, being tired, I want to go to sleep, and then I have to try and, turf ants out of the tent, and they unfortunately glommed onto where, I don't know if there's an ant's nest nearby, or I don't think I'm on an ant's nest, but it's possible. But they glommed onto the where the food was in the shade, so I can't have the food in the onto the tent, by the tent shade, and I have to move it away, and that seems to have made them gone away. But unfortunately, even though the tent zipped up, because my solar power thing goes out the tent there, even though it's sort of tightly zipped up, some of them got in. But luckily there were the smaller ones, not the big soldier ants, which are the ones that are more bitey. But it's still like, seriously, last night I was like, I just can't cope with this. Not that I was thinking of aborting the trip. It wasn't as bad as Jaunt 2, but it was just like, seriously? I mean, it was my fault. I forgot how bad that section is, and how you really have to know what you're doing with that section. I mean, it's not too far from Downies, because I could see in the distance, in the middle of that painting, you can see several hills, and I recognise them from painting the other way around. I've got kind of like the reverse of that from the last trip, and so I recognise that. I think that's Downies. So it wasn't that far, something like 3 miles, but I could see how up and down it was, and that's one of the reasons I was like, oh, I better not linger here. Of course I did, doing the painting, and then it was like, oh, I have 1.5 hours to get there. Crap, that was not enough time. So it was completely my fault. And then of course I retraced my steps, and then it took me longer, partly because I was taking it easier, because I was like, I don't want that jelly leg thing again, because no. And then so by the time I got down there, I was like, I had to then cover the bosses in 20 minutes. It was 2 miles, but we'll walk up a track, and it was like, I'm not going to make that. Maybe not even if I'm in sort of good, better health would I have done that. But and of course the heat and everything. So yeah, it was just dumb, very dumb. But thanks to those wonderful people who gave me a lift back to Eweleaze farm. That was just a lifesaver, really. And I won't do that again. Yeah. I called at the time like, oh, not another Old Harry's Rocks incident, because I stayed too late at Old Harry's Rocks and then had to walk along the roads back about 5-6 miles, including walking across country, which I didn't know, and then I found out the maps lied about the terrain, and so obviously Google Maps doesn't really tell you the terrain very well, and found out the hard way that doing that when it's sort of dusk or dark is not a good idea, even with a torch. So I had to stick to the roads. Look, the roads weren't too bad. The roads around here are unwalkable because of the traffic and, of course, no pavements. So yes, I wouldn't recommend walking around sort of the Osmington area on the roads. Little trackways, yes, but the main roads, no, do not do that. So yes, that's today. I'm going to head off to, hopefully, I need to, once I've got my shit together and I've actually had my coffee and I've had some food and I've just kind of eased myself into the day a bit, I'm going to head, if the buses are running today, which I don't even know that. I do know there are buses, but I don't know if they're running, to the CERN giant, it's not a statue, is it? You know, what was it called? Like the White Horse, sort of the line, hill drawing, hill carving, whatever they're called. It's too early in the morning to even remember. So I'll probably do that. I think it's Saturday, the buses should be running. It's Sundays, the buses don't be shit. But yeah, I will go to the. I think I need to take a train up to Dorchester and then take the bus. From what I remember from last time, I was planning to do this, but just back in October. I need to look up what the bus number is and make sure it's definitely running and everything. It seemed to be quite a good bus service actually up to CERN. Weirdly, you'd expect it to be shit, but it's not. It's quite a good bus service up there. So, yeah, 11 minutes, it's a long podcast with all things strung together, sorry about that, but it's been over several days. And, yes, don't try and walk too far than what you can capably do, kids. It's not a good idea. I'll speak to you soon. Oh, and I forgot to say, I found out what that shipwreck is. Apparently a coal barge was shipwrecked in 1926, and that meant loads of the locals got free coal for ages. And talking fossil fuels, where it was at White Nothe, or Nothe, I think it's Nothe, was something called the Burning Cliff, which in the 19th century was on fire for 3 years because the natural oil and gas in them thar hills, which we know from Kimmeridge, there is actually an oil refinery, oil drilling thing there. It burnt for 3 years, which was where I was taking the pictures of the bunker which was right by there. So yeah, lots of